Hey guys, Andrew here, and welcome back to my channel. So, if you don't know what I do by now, basically if it's Canadian, I want to talk about it. I think everybody likes to believe that alongside their best friend, they are the funniest people out there. And I see it a lot when I listen to podcasts or video podcasts or review channels. You'll have a group of friends gathered around, they'll talk, they'll joke, and they'll produce something. I think that's just a part of it. Everyone wants to believe that when we combine our forces, we could produce amazing stuff. So, what happens when two best friends decide they're going to have a reality TV competition? That, my friends, would be Kenny versus Spenny. Kenny versus Spenny was a 2002 debuting comedy on CBC and later Showcase. The show had a very basic premise. Each week, longtime friends Kenny Hotz and Spencer Nolan Rice would engage in a competition to see who was the better man. The show was originally pitched to USA Network. Now, USA Network pulled out while they were filming the pilot. With nothing else to do and very little going for them, they decided they were going to finish the show and they were going to pitch it around. They eventually found a home way back in Canada, so Kenny and Spenny came back to Toronto, rented a house, and filmed the first season. Now, when I say competition, this could have been anything. This could have been something as simple as who's the better athlete, who's the better figure skater, or something like who can have a chicken on their head the longest. Really, anything was fair game, just as long as there was a winner and a loser. As much as the show was about the competition, it was about the two men in the competition. Kenny Hotz was the cheater. He was the bad guy. He was the one who would find a way to bend the rules or twist things around in order to win. He was the one who said, "This is all for television and really it doesn't matter, so I am going to do whatever I want." He came up with characters, he would sing silly songs, and he bought a lot of dildos. Like a lot. And then there was Spenny. Spenny was a little bit more grounded, but at the same time, he also had issues. Throughout the series, you'll notice that he tries to be virtuous and true, never cheat, blah blah blah. Although he would cheat on occasion, he also was the one who was often the target of Kenny. Kenny would go out of his way to get Spenny upset. I think this was a part of his strategy because this is how he would get Spenny to lose competitions. He would push him off his game. He would get him in a way where it was just easy to secure the victory. He was the straight man to Kenny. Now, the show doesn't have many characters per se, but it does have a lot of their friends popping in and out and people related to them. But one of the most common groups in the show to frequently appear would have to be their cameramen. And this is something I appreciate about this show. It's a reality television show that acknowledges it's a reality television show. The camera crew is seen throughout many episodes. They talk to Kenny and Spenny. They help them. Sometimes they get involved. A good example would be the episode Who Could 69 the Longest? Yeah, I know. Just give me a second here with this. So, Kenny and Spenny are put in a harness essentially that keeps them in the 69 position, and the camera crew takes full advantage of this, dropping stuff on them, rolling them up in a carpet, dropping elbows on them, really just pushing their buttons as much as they can. The show was out there at the time. This was the perfect show for an era where things like South Park, Jackass, and the Tony Hawk series were at their peak. It just fit right in. And me as a 13-year-old skater, I loved it. A lot of Canadians loved it too, but the only people who didn't love it at the time were CBC. One aspect that I have yet to talk about is the humiliations. It's not just enough to lose a competition, there needs to be a physical form of humiliation. This could be anything from having dogs lick dog food off your butt, peeing your pants on public television, or sponge bathing an elderly man. Whatever they could do to really drive across the point that you lost, they would find something. and this was usually towards the end of the show when they were wrapping up. The problem with it was, at the time, they were on CBC, Canada's Broadcasting Corporation, and they were right next to the National with Peter Mansbridge, a well-known, highly rated, highly acclaimed Canadian news program. So they had older viewers who were tuning in for the National, catching these humiliations, and they complained about it. It wasn't their demographic, and they were very upset. So after 26 episodes, Kenny and Spenny got the boot from CBC. So after getting the boot from CBC, they found themselves on Showcase, a much raunchier, much edgier network that tried to push the artistic bounds of what could be shown on TV. They had shows like Trailer Park Boys, which I'll talk about later, but I think most people know what Trailer Park Boys is, and Web Dreams, a documentary series about the Canadian pornography industry. So I think it's safe to say they found a pretty good home on Showcase. And with Showcase and one season behind them, they really started to flourish and really find their voice. You can see more and more as they go on, Spenny goes from somebody who's just annoyed by Kenny to somebody who throw on temper tantrums. And you can see Kenny gets more and more elaborate with his actions. The competitions also got way more out there and way more risque as time went on. Probably the best example of this was who can smoke more weed. Now, at this time, weed was still illegal in Canada, and in stage shows since the show has aired, Kenny and Spenny have admitted that it was amazing that the episode got made. Basically, you can tell from the title what the objective was, but they had to go get weed. It wasn't as easy as it is now with dispensaries. So one of them had to go to a drug dealer, pay them in cash, take it back to Showcase, and try and get reimbursed. And you know what? They actually got away with it. It's amazing what 2000s era television used to do. Now, as the show would continue on Showcase, I got more and more amazed at some of the things they could get away with. One of the biggest surprises would have to be the episode Who Can Stay on an Island the Longest. Throughout the series, it's obvious that Kenny likes to abuse Spenny, and I feel like this was an attempt by him to sort of make peace or give him a break. The whole episode centers around them heading to an island off Cuba. But because they flew from Toronto all the way to Cuba, they're already on an island. So this was Kenny's ruse in order to essentially get a whole vacation paid for by the network. Once again, I'm amazed what you could get away with on television back in the day. Now, eventually the series would have to wrap up. And of course, what better way for two Jewish entertainers to end a series than with a Christmas special? Essentially, it was shown as a variety hour. The whole premise was who can stay in a Christmas tree the longest, and it was intercut with sketches and them hosting the show. Honestly, it was a bit of a letdown for a finale, but I think Spenny said it best.
I think we're done, just because what else can we do? I've been puked on, pissed on, I've fallen off of cows. Like, what the hell else can I do? We're not jackass.
Kenny would ultimately be the one to win the series. After the series, the two went their separate ways and worked on different projects. Spenny stayed on Showcase and did the show Single White Spenny, which was based on his experiences with dating. Kenny would have another reality show called Triumph of Will, and both of them would only last for one season, because that's how TV works. After a few more years, they would eventually start touring as Kenny versus Spenny versus Canada. They would go from town to town, bar to bar, venue to venue, and just talk about the things that you never got to see, some deleted scenes, including a very disturbing humiliation. Now, the two would eventually return to CBC in a mother of all irony situation where they did what was known as the Pandemic special, which ultimately acknowledged one of the shortcomings of the show. The whole thing being on TV and just constantly having to entertain, it proved to be an issue for their friendship, and it did cause some strain. The two are still friends, but I can imagine that putting all of that on television and just sort of going at each other's throats eventually caused a rift. As far as I'm concerned, Kenny versus Spenny is one of my greatest memories. At the time, I liked Spenny, but as I've grown older, I appreciate Kenny because Kenny was the one who played the showman in this whole thing. He knew that it was TV and that it didn't really matter. Just have fun and just go with it and produce a couple episodes. Alright, guys, that's gonna do it for me. Thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. Hey, just you do you. Alright, I'm Andrew, and I'll see you later.